Hello, everyone. Welcome. This is actually my very first stream, and I am sad to have to do it on such unfortunate circumstances. But today we are talking about the violence that has happened and occurred in Atlanta. The tragic shooting um, of eight people, six of them being Asian women, happening across three massage parlors in Atlanta. Um, and the reason I wanted to create this forum for two reasons. One is for the Asian American community, Asian Pacific Islander communities, to be able to come and share and process their thoughts, their emotions. And the other is to create a space where we have a lot of allies to the Asian American community. And I wanted to bring them up and show them and show the Asian community that we have support. We have individuals, amazing leaders who are willing to come and show their support. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start bringing them on and let those who do identify as Asian American or Pacific Islander to share and express their thoughts. But for those who are our allies to come and share their support for us. I have a number of them already waiting backstage right now, and I'll bring them up one by one and allow them to come and talk and share. If you personally would like to come and join the conversation, I am going to be posting the link for we're going to do this for just a little bit. So feel free, join us. The link is on my LinkedIn. It is also on my Facebook. So feel free. I'm going to start posting them there and we will get started. And again, thank you. First up, I will bring Tiffany. Tiffany and I got connected a little bit ago. Welcome, Tiffany. I'll bring up Yvonne as well. Hello.
Hi, Chris.
Hello. All right. And Pamela. So I see that we have a number of people who are actually even waiting. So if you can, please go ahead and Tiffany, let's start with you. If you can just share your thoughts and then I'll move you back and I'll let you disconnect. I'll just have everyone kind of cycle through. So if you can share your thoughts, share your support, and then you can leave the studio, then we'll be able to get more people on and cycle through. So Tiffany, go ahead.
Thanks, Chris. Good to see you. Good to see Yvonne and Pamela. Definitely some heavy stuff. And I think that probably it's safe to say that a lot of us are still processing that. And I first want to hold space for you and thank you for having us on. And you know that I'm always here to support you. And I have very much respect for you. And I feel a bit speechless, honestly, and very emotional. I'm really wrestling with the things that keep occurring, just the senselessness of it all. I hope that people are feeling safe to report. I know that many people are kind of internalizing this and holding it in, and I'm just really worried for people right now. I wish that I could reach out and just give everybody a big hug and let them know that I'm here for you, even whoever's listening. Even if we don't know each other, I'm here for you. Please reach out if you need a listening ear, you need a virtual hug, you need someone to run ideas by. I don't have all the answers, but I am here in solidarity, and just, it's tough. It's a tough situation, and violence at any level is not okay. It is not okay for people to continue to be marginalized and oppressed and murdered. I think that some people struggle with the word murdered, and I will use that word very intentionally. It's very upsetting. So I really appreciate you even allowing the space. I wanted to stop. I want to be a part of the solution, and I'm doing what I can. So If anyone has ideas for me on how I can support better too as a member of the Black community, I am here and I just want you to know that. So appreciate the time, Chris.
Thank you so much, Tiffany. I really appreciate it. I'm going to move you off the stage, and feel free to keep watching so we can get more people in because I can only have so many people in the backstage as well. So thank you again, Tiffany. I appreciate it. Miss Yvonne, let's go to you. Thank you
Hi,
for
Chris.
joining.
Yeah, no problem. I echo Tiffany's sentiments. You know, this is just such a tragedy once again perpetrated against the AAPI community. You and I are very close friends. You know how I feel about you. You know how I feel, even about Cheryl Young, who I'm relatively, I met relatively recently. And as I shared with you a few moments ago before the stream began, it's just been a really heavy day. When I saw it come across the AP Newswire, I was just shocked. In some regards, not fully surprised. I had a feeling that it would escalate to this point because of, I believe, the previous administration's rhetoric and everything that has been going on with that it was only just a matter of time for things to escalate to this point. I am frustrated by the law enforcement and, people trying to say, well, maybe he had some issues, maybe it was a fetish, maybe it was this, maybe it was that. At the end of the day, he targeted a specific demographic. And in doing so, it's a hate crime. And let's call a thing, right? Playing these politics with words is just ridiculous. We're trying to keep him from the increased scrutiny and repercussions of it being a hate crime versus a crime of passion, which are two very different things, carry different weight, carry different sentences, etc. I just think that it's appalling, and no matter what, he targeted a specific community. He targeted women. He targeted the innocent. And according to Mayor Lakeisha Bottoms recently, on, I believe it was CNN, who said that if they had not stopped him, it looked like he had others on the horizon. And so, while I'm glad it wasn't more, I still, in solidarity with the AAPI community, I grieve for the loss. Being a member of the Black community, we've just seen this time and time again, month after month, year after year, century after century. I mean, it doesn't stop. I am glad that you're creating an opportunity and a forum for people to speak out, to share their thoughts, their concerns, their hearts, and more than anything, their allyship with you. And it's something that we really need to focus on is allyship between our communities. It's been broken for a number of reasons. We, were on a discussion not too long ago about that very topic, especially between the Black community and the Asian community. And we need to get beyond those barriers and start working much more synergistically and effectively to stand together against issues of hate and, violence and all of the other topics. So thank you for the opportunity to stand with you, my friend. I am here for you. I'm here for anyone who wants to talk. Chris, I'm a Christian and unapologetically authentic about it, dude. So I'm going to be praying for you and the family. And, I love you. And I'm here. I'm here for you.
Thank you, Yvonne. I appreciate that very much. I appreciate your friendship and your allyship as well. Thank you. I would like to bring up Heather because I know that you're in a bit of a time crunch, so I want to respect your time as well. So go ahead.
Yeah, well, it's an honor to be here. Chris, I just want to acknowledge you. Thank you for putting together something like this and leading in a time like this. This is so needed, and it's an honor to stand with you and the incredible community that you have brought together. I know this has been a work that you've just been pioneering, pouring your heart into with your podcast and the weekly calls. I have nothing else to offer than just to say that I support you, the unconventional leaders community. We support you guys. This has been such a needed year for us white folks to get our crap together and provide space and shut up and listen and learn. And I have been just humbled, right? Over the past year or so, learning myself how ignorant I've been and how much that I need to provide space. And so I've learned so much from you, Chris. You've been such a good friend to me and teacher. And I just thank you for including me in this space right now. And yeah, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Heather. I really appreciate it. And for those of you who are joining, we have a whole lineup of individuals who are wanting to talk. So I know I've shared the StreamYard link on LinkedIn and on Facebook, as well as YouTube. So feel free, hop on in if you would like. The waiting room is full at the moment, but don't worry, keep trying. I want to hear your voice. We want to allow you to process as well as show your support for the API community. Thank you again, Heather. I'm going to move you back to the backstage. And Pamela, thank you for coming. I want to acknowledge you and your time, so thank you for coming up.
Thank you, Chris, for inviting me. And again, just want to share my heartfelt regret for where we are right now, and my support for you, all of my Asian siblings, and I'm speechless by just how far we've come from who we really should be. And so my thoughts around this is, one, that we need one another, that we need to bind together, that we need to reimagine, as one of my sisters says, we need to reimagine family, that we are a family, and we need to begin to review the systems of our behaviors, our actions, our thoughts that are not in alignment with unity and oneness and respecting one another. And we need to call it out of everyone around us. And so I just want to say that I'm here for anyone who needs an ear, needs to talk, needs to process. I want to say again that all acts of violence, they need to stop. We need to stop racializing the virus. We need to stop politicizing the virus. And I stand with you all. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Pamela. I can hear the emotion in your voice. I can hear it. And I appreciate your advocacy, your allyship so much. And I know the rest of the Asian American community and Pacific Islander community does as well. And so thank you again. I'm going to move you back to the back so we can continue cycling individuals through. Heng, I know you are on a time crunch as well, so I want to honor your time. So please go ahead and share your experience, share how you're feeling, and we'll keep going.
Hi, thanks for having me. I don't know about you, but I feel like this was an unfortunate manifestation that was just waiting to happen. And I really want to acknowledge the Asian community out there. Chris and I have talked about this a lot. We have often been taught to sit down and shut up, and we are often not considered white nor people of color. So it's sort of time to acknowledge that we are hurt by racism as well, because we slip in the cracks between black and white and beige. Doesn't mean that we don't experience racism. You know, I've shared my story before. You know, as a 7-year-old girl being surrounded by not only white kids, but other minorities. And I just think it's time to acknowledge that, that it happens, that it's unfortunate, and we as Asians need to find our voice and uplift each other, and for all minorities to uplift each other, no matter what shade of brown and beige we are. So I'm, you know, as I mentioned, or I don't think I've mentioned yet, Chris and I, you know, we're trying to elevate these very difficult conversations on various platforms, including here, including on Clubhouse, to have a really, really safe space. And what I love about the live community is that you know you're not being recorded, and you know that you can speak your truth. So thank you, Chris, for having this platform.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Heng. Thank you so much for coming and taking time out of your day. Natasha, I want to pass it over to you. You've been patiently waiting, so go ahead. Please share.
Hi, hey Chris and everyone here. And I can, while I'm not Asian American, I can really relate to Hang what you were talking about, being someone who's, not white enough, not Hispanic enough. Growing up in a lot of different spaces, I was never one or the other. I was kind of in that weird middle spot. And at a time like this, what happened is weighing very heavily on me for sure. And I had actually just participated in the Hollaback's bystander intervention training on Monday, specifically for, anti-Asian American hate and xenophobic harassment. And, I was feeling, I don't know if excited is the right word, but like feeling empowered to be like, granted, in this time of COVID where I'm not really going outside, like if something were to happen, I had some of those skills in my toolkit. And to wake up to the news today, I just felt really defeated, knowing that such an awful crime was committed and that those six women's lives were lost. And I was hopping in and out of different clubhouses today, and it just shows the importance of intersectionality for all of our different identities, because we all have very different things that we bring to ourselves and to the table. And if we all, say, oh, well, I'm queer and that's more important than my Hispanic background, or I'm Asian, therefore that's more important than the Black community. And if we all work against each other in these marginalized communities, we only continue to suppress ourselves and allow for, specifically white supremacy and, white power to overcome us, because we're all working against each other while they continue to just like be at the top and continue to thrive. And so it just really reminds me at this point in time that we need to work together and be allies and advocates and friends and family for one another. And yeah, I'm just feeling a lot of things, but, to those of you that I don't know, I send my love and my support and hugs. And for those of you that I do know, the same to you as well. And Chris, thank you for inviting me to be a part. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you again so much, Natasha. Thank you for your support. I personally really appreciate it, and thank you for taking time to come and talk today. I'm going to go ahead and move you back to the back, and we'll continue going down the line. And thank you for waiting, and thank you for coming.
Hi, everyone. Chris, thank you, as always, for bringing us together. For anyone that identifies as Asian American, I, again, want to repeat what everyone else is saying, and just saying that I'm sorry. The way that I look at this as a white woman is really that it's an intersectional problem between racism and sexism, that the victims were both Asian and women, and that white supremacist patriarchal violence that is permeated and justified throughout our culture really failed this man who not only has murdered 6 women and wounded others, had the vision of harming even more. but also has justified it. So he is now quoted saying that he is a sex addict and that he had the right to kill these women because of the way they made him feel. And that is so, my nervous system, I'm a incest survivor. And so my nervous system just really reacts to that statement. That is kind of the same statement I was told by my father, who is also a white patriarchal male supremacist, which is that he had the right to exploit my body for his needs because he didn't have control. And that is wrong. And the fact that this boy and my father were raised in a system that taught them that, or that didn't correct that in them, is such a sign of injustice. And there are so many of us are victims in so many different communities because of that ideology that continues to permeate and justify violence against vulnerable populations. And I am shaking, trembling, and I'm not Asian, you know, like I am a victim as a woman. And I cannot imagine how much worse it is for others who hold the intersection of race in a way that I don't have to. But I am abhorred and continue to advocate and fight using my own story and my own voice to break down white supremacist ideological patriarchal thinking that our culture has justified for far too long, while uplifting voices of safety and a culture of healing that I think is so important as we move forward and create family systems within ourselves and outside ourselves, within institutions and organizations that are safe and supportive and loving for all people.
And thank you again so much. And thank you, as always, for being vulnerable and sharing your own story and adding in that additional layer and depth to the conversation, because this is not just an Asian issue, right? This is a multi-layered issue. This, hate and racism and misogyny spans and intersects across so many people and affects so many people. So I want to thank you for sharing that as well. And Anne, I'm going to go ahead and move you to the back as well, and hope you can keep watching and participating. Thank you. Jeff Harry, thank you for coming on, my friend, and being a support.
Yeah, I'm just numb, Vincent Chin died like 19 years ago. Nothing has really changed in when you look at the context of that, right? And I was having this conversation with my friend Maddie, and we were talking about the similarities between this lone wolf, not calling someone as a homegrown terrorist, like that language never being used this whole time, but this like lone wolf, white male entitlement, and how similar it is to like how we praise the Elon Musks and the Jeff Bezos and these, it's the same level of entitlement. It's the same level of I am going to do whatever I want to influence this because I feel entitled to do so. And we celebrate it. I don't know if it's like we celebrate it, but like clearly there's enough people that want to keep the context of this lone wolf bullshit. Sorry, but like instead of just calling what it is, which is like frickin' terrorism. It's standard terrorism every frickin' time. And the thing that frustrates me so much is like, Instagram accounts like Asians with Attitudes, like they've been doing patrols in Oakland Chinatown and San Francisco Chinatown when people were getting attacked, like a few months ago. For the last like 6 months, there's been a lot of people trying to talk about this. And only now, after this happens, does this make the front page, because now it fits the sensationalized news, and it's perfect for the moment, and it sells like clicks, right? But the thing that's just so frustrating is the fact that as long as we don't challenge the current white supremacist mediocre male entitlement culture, and people need to move out of the way, we're going to continue to have this, because in many ways, I feel like it was communicated to us as Asian Americans that we were not American. You know, that the actions, especially in the media, of how they even portrayed it up until this point was like, oh, you know, there's these things happening in the, you know, over here, but don't worry about it. It's not that big of a deal. You know, everyone else doesn't have to worry about it. And it's just like the combination of that and Sarah Everhard in London, it just shows like the biggest threat, in my opinion, to American democracy is the mediocre white male and the entitlement level that they're currently dealing with. And they need to check that. They just need to fricking check that. And that's all I have to say. Thanks, man.
Jeff, as always, spit and fire. Thank you again. And thank you for just being open and honest and sharing how you feel. You know, it's unfortunate we're continuing to have these conversations, right? I mean, we started this year with a conversation just like this, and we're continuing to have these types of conversations. And Jonathan Mahan, he's in the background right now, but he left a comment, right, where it says, we keep seeing events like this happening, and the conversation is always about Asian hate and anti-Black racism. But I like to hear the conversation stay where it should be, which is fuck white supremacy, since it's the root cause and common denominator in all of these cases. So yeah, Jonathan, thank you so much. And I'll bring you up in just a little bit. Jeff, thank you again so much. Virginia, you've been waiting patiently. I want to give you the stage, and then I'll go to Jeff G, Angelica, and Cheryl as well to share. So Virginia, I don't believe we've met before, but thank you so much for coming on. And yeah, I would love to hear what you have to say.
Hey, Chris, thank you so much. I'm a friend of Jeff, and he passed this, I guess, StreamYard along to me. I am feeling a lot of things. um, it's very layered, right? Because there's just so many points of awfulness, right? There's the blatant anti-Asian racism, like just purposely choosing Asian spas and where there's a lot of maybe lower income Asian women working or Asian folks working. There's just the lack of safety that I feel, and anger. And that it's once again, surprise, white dude. Even before we found out, like that he was a devout Christian, knew that was going to be the narrative. And then just the way, every news outlet said massage parlors. And I knew it was going to be like trying to make the allusion to sex work. And then several thoughts about that, which is like decriminalize sex work. Like sex work is not a problem. Like, and also who cares if they were sex workers? Last time I checked, being a sex worker wasn't like a death sentence. Like that wasn't like, oh, maybe you should die now because you're a sex worker. And the fact that, the police brought him in, fed him Burger King, said he was having a bad day. You know who was having a bad day? The 8 people he murdered. They're having a bad day. All their family members and friends are having a bad day. So, and there's that, and then there's like folks in the Asian community, are always associated with sex work, and that's a constant narrative, or like, and then there's folks with, like, for lack of a better term, the Asian incels, the rice cells, saying like, "Oh, see, this is what happens when you let white men fuck you," and like, so it's just there's just so much awfulness, and it's just, it's like how much, and like how much are we supposed to bear, and why is it that it's always, oh well, of course, then the New York police, are like going into communities of color to protect Asian people and Asian communities, when really it's just an excuse to like hurt other communities of color, right? And it's just us being divided over and over again and pitted against each other. And all I hear is like, oh, well, Asians are anti-Black, and then, oh, well, Black folks are anti-Asian, and all this stuff. When really, I think Jonathan was said it already, like it's 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 all it's all white supremacy, right? It's all white supremacy, patriarchy, and the idea that white men get to control the narrative. Like my 9-year-old daughter was like, why do they hate us so much? Like why did the police officer say he was just having a bad day when he killed people? Like I have to explain to my 9-year-old daughter that this is what America is, that that's what racism is, you know, and it's no different than Black communities and brown communities and indigenous communities, right? Or like, you know, LGBT communities. But the fact that it's just so utterly like you either scream or you cry or you like hit things. But like I don't there's just so much to process and it's all dumped on us. And then we're asked, or sometimes we volunteer to give our opinions about it. You know, like for the white media so that white people can understand our pain and grief and anger, you know. So I'm not quite sure if that was actually coherent, but thank you for listening.
Absolutely, Virginia. You know, as you were sharing what your daughter had said, I could tell, I could feel your emotion coming through. I also have a daughter; she's almost 6. Um, we haven't told her yet what's happened because we don't know how to tell her yet. Um, but you know, that's something I'm not, me personally, I'm not too sure how to do. And I but as you were sharing your story, I could feel that. I could feel myself getting choked up because it's so heartbreaking. And I know that other communities of color have conversations like this. They have these conversations. Right now, the Asian community is having to, you know, face the music and um, understand what other groups are going through. And for me personally, I hope this is an eye-opening experience for the Asian community, for those who did not believe other people of color or did not empathize with other groups, with other marginalized groups. Um, so yes, thank you again for sharing. Jeff G, thank you for being so patient. Before we go to you, anyone who's watching, if you would like to come and join the conversation, I'm going to repost the StreamYard link. You can come in and join. There have been a lot of people trying to join, so the room has been pretty full. But if you would like, if you want to keep trying, please do. We're going to be here as long as we need to, and we'll cycle through people as we go. For those of you who are on the stage right now, if you need to drop, not a problem. If you want to stay, not a problem as well. But I may just kind of kick you out as we go along. So Jeff G, thank you again for waiting. Go ahead, share whatever you would like to say, and thank you for showing up. I appreciate it.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. I'm used to being behind the mic in a lot of different contexts, or being in front of the mic in a lot of different contexts. Is the only time I have ever been to something quite like this. And I got to be honest, I don't really know what to do in this situation. So I'll just share a few things. One, I was really struck by what Virginia just said, and I hadn't really internalized that. But so I have a 10-month-old daughter. My wife is Chinese. So I don't have to have that conversation with her yet, but I never actually considered that I might one day have to have that kind of a conversation. And that shit's, I didn't even think about that until you just said that. So I worry about my family, obviously. So a lot of people have shared the solidarity piece, and obviously I share that as well. But to be totally frank, I'm just like super angry and extremely frustrated that it just doesn't make sense to me. Like any of this, that this has to be like a lather, rinse, repeat thing that keeps happening in society amongst different groups. I just don't understand why we have to keep coming. It's like the school shooting thing. Like when that keeps happening, I'm like, are we seriously? We're still doing this thing? Like we haven't figured out how to get past this thing. And now to see this happen, and like it's infuriating to watch the media response to it. Just this constant, immediate like softening of the image of like horrific people when in scenarios that are nothing like this, like people that are like broken down on the side of the road, immediately the he's no angel narrative comes out, right? Like it's just there's nothing. I have nothing to offer this conversation other than like my pure rage and my offer that for every person that said that they will be an ear for you, like I extend that as well, but probably more appropriately to my skill set, like consider me your bat signal. If you are in the midst of having an angry conversation with somebody online that doesn't get this shit and that doesn't get that the Spanish flu was also a racist thing, like throw up the bat signal, throw up a flare. I will jump in there and I will rip that person to pieces, grind them to a fine paste. Start the bat signal.
Jeff, I want to thank you for that as well, because just from the standpoint that we need allies like you who are willing to just say, you know, when these things are happening, like this is bullshit, this is not okay anymore, it needs to stop. And so I want to say thank you for being that ally for us, as well as just being here and showing your support. Thank you again so much. Thank you for coming in my time of need and for showing your support to the Asian Pacific Islander community. I'm going to keep moving to Angelica. Jeff G, I'm going to move you back to the backstage. Keep watching if you'd like from Facebook or LinkedIn, but thank you again so much. Angelica, go ahead. Thank you for joining.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Chris, for sending this my way. I honestly, it just, as a Latina, it just feels like when is enough going to be enough? But the fact is that this is the system that was created, and the system is perpetuating itself constantly. The system was not created for people of color to thrive. It was merely created for us to survive for the benefit of the white population. And that's just history. And, you know, when we keep asking, like, why does this happen? It's because of the system. And it's because of the inability or the unwillingness to break this system. And it benefits those in power, and they keep it that way, and they keep it going. And, you know, for me as a Latina, I want to say to my Asian folks, brothers, sisters, non-binary folks, I just want you to know that you're not alone, and that this does, you know, I just feel like sometimes we as people of color can be so separated, and there is a lot of anti-Asian rhetoric that goes on in the Latinx community, and we need to start really addressing that at home. This is really going to be about doing the internal work before we can do the external work within the systems. It's the same with the Black community as well. The Latinx community, we have a lot of work to do. We need to really look at the ways that we are perpetuating the system, the ways in which we are upholding white supremacy, the ways in which we are benefiting from proximity to whiteness. And it's something that I think all of us as collective people of color, even the phrase people of color erases the uniqueness that we all have, but we all really need to take a look at the internal work that needs to be done within our communities, because there has been a lot of trauma. There has been a lot of struggles and strife between us that keep us from really coming together, because we haven't actually addressed the root cause of things that are going on in our communities that are perpetuating it. And, you know, Virginia, you bring up such a good point in that it's also about the perpetuation of a stereotype that these victims were nothing more than sex workers. And we really need to start looking at how the media portrays this, how they keep it going, how we need to start calling out the language, call it what it is. It's white supremacy, it's terrorism, domestic terrorism. We need to stop dancing around the subject. And for my HR professionals out there, we need to start being a lot more vocal about what's going on outside of the workplace. It is astonishing to me how silent it has been, whether it was last year, this year. if we want people to stop seeing human resources as simply a function that is just there to protect the company, we have to start changing the ways in which we interact. Our employees are going through things. We need to show up. We need to be ready to handle that and not just pass them along to the EAP, to the MHN. We need to start doing the work. So that's what I want to say is we just need to start doing the internal work, all of us. And we need, I'm here as an ear as well to be there to listen to people and to show up. So thank you for having me.
Angelica, thank you again so much, and thank you for providing that insight as well. I'm getting a number of pings. So Virginia, Jeff, Angelica, thank you so much for coming. If you want to come back in, maybe try again in 10 minutes. We'll do the Clubhouse thing, right? Like I'm going to move you to the audience and then you can come back and raise your hand again. But feel free, stick around. You can still watch on LinkedIn and Facebook. So thank you again so much. I'm going to move you all. Cheryl and John, welcome to this. Welcome up. Cheryl, my partner in crime for a number of weeks now. We have been going back and forth on this for quite some time. I would just love to hear what you have to say.
Hi, everyone. I'm Cheryl. Pronouns are she, her, they, them. I think for a whole year now, I kept taking the systemic racism route when talking about this issue. And I find that this message has become limiting because very few people listen. But here's a breakdown of what I'm thinking right now. My frustration is no one paid attention to what was happening, something that is a global issue. People all over the world have racialized this virus. It's an anti-Chinese sentiment that just exploded. It was brewing even before the pandemic, but it's exploded. Now in the United States, as long as you somehow look like Chinese in any way, you're at risk for violence right now. And this violence is not just physical assaults, it's verbal assaults, it's structural violence on so many levels. And the media drives me to the brink of rage. When it finally decides to cover this story significantly, it became an anti-Black narrative, which distracted everybody from this issue again, and it harmed a lot of Black folks. It harmed us as well because it further silenced us. Last night, I was thinking, great, tomorrow it's going to be a story about white nationalism. And it's not going to be a story about what we're going through again. So I think the media is once again going to shift the attention away from what is happening to the API community. And we're going to be very, very focused on white terrorism. And again, we're not talking about why this virus became racialized and how it has triggered every single historical racism that we have experienced in this country since the very first people that were brought over, with Philippine ex-folks were brought over by the Spanish. Those were the first Asians that stepped foot here, right? And then the Chinese immigrants, the migrant workers. This type of racism has existed in this country. Anti-Asian racism is part and parcel of this country. It is a narrative written by white supremacy. There are two parallel narratives going on. The model minority myth, but also the undesired immigrants of color narrative runs parallel to the model minority myth. These two narratives run parallel and they continue to silence us in so many ways. They distract and remove us from anything, right? So we can keep talking about this story in ways that will continue to distract us from anti-Asian sentiment, or we can actually look at the problem. Can we start to put pressure on leaders to take a stand around this? Can business leaders out there, right, whatever organization you're from, can you put pressure on the people to sort of make a solid statement that your business does not stand for this? This is the action I want to see happen, right? Take a solid stand. you condemn these acts of violence and you do not believe in the racialization of this virus because it is harming us. It's been a whole year. And yes, historically, Asian Pacific Islanders have been through lots of racism. Our racism is often not told. Our stories are often not told. And this is another instance where our stories are not getting told. The media is not telling our stories. It's telling this other stuff, right? It's just perpetuating systemic racism, continuing to uplift white supremacy. So with that, thank you for letting me let it out, everybody. And I am going to yield my time. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. I think that what you shared just shows this frustration and this emotion that we've all been feeling for so long. And when you look at violent acts like this, it's like it didn't have to come to this. Unfortunately, the system that it is set up, it is what it is. But because it did come to this, unfortunately. So thank you for sharing. I'll keep you up because I know that there's a lot for us to continue talking about. John, I'll pass it over to you next in just a moment. I want to acknowledge Nicole, Margie, and Hang coming back. Celia and Fadi, I see you on stage with us as well, if we want to call this a stage. If you would like to speak, go ahead and turn on your video cameras. That'd be great. And for those of you who are watching, we are just cycling individuals through. So if you would like to come and show your support for the Asian Pacific Islander community, go ahead, click on the StreamYard link in the comments, and you can join the conversation as well. For those of you who are watching and just want to just watch, feel free, leave a comment, leave a question. Happy to address those as they come through. And thank you again so much for participating and showing your support for the Asian Pacific Islander community. John, I will pass it over to you. Thanks for joining.
Hey, thanks for putting this together, Chris. This first point I want to harp on too much because I made it in the comment and others have brought it up again. But again, the issue is white supremacy. The issue is this narrative infecting this country and really, to an extent, the entire globe, that whiteness is normal. Whiteness is the default. Anything else is a strange aberration, right? Whiteness is preferred. Whiteness is better. It's so maybe okay to be something else, but you really want to be white, right? And this sense that whiteness has preference and whiteness has a certain right to space and a certain right to high regard from people, and just this is behind all of it. This mentality that infects everyone everywhere, even people who aren't white to an extent, seems are infected by this mentality that is throughout the entire globe, and it needs to stop. Even being a model minority, right? That myth isn't a protection against this white supremacy, this idea that non-white isn't really valuable. Non-white doesn't deserve space, it doesn't deserve life, it doesn't deserve rights, and that whiteness really does. And it's some kind of affront to nature to deny whiteness what it wants, right? And that whiteness has this right to whatever it wants. And it's normal, right, for that to be the way things are. Like, this is the mentality every single one of us in the US is brought up surrounded by. And we have to challenge and undo it. So if you're a white person out there listening to this, and every time we see a person of color murdered or some atrocity happening, you get all up in arms and outraged, how could this happen? And then you just neatly sit right back the fuck down and do nothing and just let this white supremacist culture keep on going. I imagine there are people out there who don't want to hear your outrage, right? If that's the way you handle things. If you sit by for a year and never speak up a word about this white supremacist mindset that's happening and how it's affecting communities, and then you get all outraged when this happens, like, this is a natural conclusion to what happens when you have a white supremacist narrative infecting an entire country, right? You're going to have people doing this stuff. So my encouragement to white people is take this rage you're feeling right now, how the hell can this happen, and actually use that to fuel continued action, even if it's just small steps, to educate yourself, to educate those in your life. If you got kids in school, you better be talking to your school teachers about, hey, how are you teaching Asian American history? How are you teaching Black history? How are you teaching this history of our country, right? How are you talking about Columbus Day when that rolls around, right? Talk to the school, talk to your kids' teachers, like raise your freaking voice about this stuff. Otherwise, this white supremacist bullcrap is not going to change. And that's my piece.
John, thank you again so much. So powerful. Yeah, if we aren't raising our voices, especially our allies, our white allies, change is not going to happen. John, thank you again. I'm going to move you back out, and I want to give the floor to Nicole and Margie because I know that you two are both on a bit of a time crunch, so I want to honor and respect your time. So I'll let you two go ahead and take the floor.
Go ahead,
Nicole,
See, we're both muted. We both didn't.
We're both muted. We're here together in solidarity
Yeah,
for you,
yes.
Chris. And I want to
Yes.
express my heartfelt sorrow. I think there was somebody earlier that said that they were numb. I think there is an ongoing numbness. You and I have talked outside of this. And I've talked many times that this global pandemic, we have two global pandemics happening right now. The pandemic, which is COVID, and then we have the pandemic, which is the racial reckoning that we're all going through right now that affects all of us. And I'm here in Canada, just to let everybody know, I'm not in the US, but I am watching. I heard what happened today. A lot of my work is focused on anti-Black racism, systemic racism, intersectionally for all of us. I condemn any kind of racism, and this violence and murdering that's happening to the Asian community right now is absolutely unconscionable and cannot be stood for. And so we do need to stand up and speak up. So I'm honored to be here to listen to everybody. Our work at WTC, and then I'm going to pass it over to Margie, really focuses on the individual. And I think that individually, we all have to do the work to understand the systems and the structures that people are talking about here. Cheryl, you talked about it a little bit earlier. And it isn't enough that the corporations stand up and condemn it if they don't understand the manifestations to which they're perpetuating. So I think that we have to take a step back and think about getting people to understand the systems and how they've been indoctrinated into us individually. What are the cultural norms that have allowed us to get to this place? And once you understand those, you can start to address how do we focus on making those changes. But there aren't enough people, especially those that are part of privilege and the dominant culture, to understand those cultural norms and how they actually manifest in these subtle ways that cause us to be in the situations we're in right now. So I think there's a lot of work to do, and we are doing the work by all being here and supporting one another and speaking out about the things that we will not tolerate, cannot tolerate, and will continue to fight for, and the change that we hope we can all make in the world we want to see. So.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I'm going to take 30 seconds or less because, Chris, thank you for inviting me to be here. And Nicole and I are collaborators, friends, partners, and I'm not going to center this on myself. I want to be here as a symbol of support. And Celia, I'm glad to see your beautiful face, and I love you. So I want, not to take up the floor. I want everybody else to be able to speak and to share their voice. I just want to be here as a presence. And Celia and I have kind of gone through this back and forth before, that I don't just stand with you, but I will literally stand before you, okay, to protect you. So that's my 2 cents today.
We love you, Margie. We love you, Chris.
Too,
and everybody who's here. I think that this is an important way for us to let everybody know that we're here for you and that we do love you, and that we certainly are doing everything that we can in our own individual powers to support you.
Well, thank you both for coming and taking time out of your very busy days. I very much appreciate it. And again, this is not for me. This is to really show, again, the Asian Pacific Islander communities that we do have allies, we do have support, we do have people who are willing to fight for us. This is not my therapy session as much as I would want it to be, but this is not. This is for me to show the world and show those in our community that we do have help. We do have people who love us, who want to support us, raise our voices, and help amplify what we do and who we are as people. So thank you both again so much. Celia, I know that you have been waiting for quite some time. Thank you again so much for joining and being a support as always. So go ahead, I will pass it over to you.
Thank you, Chris. I just wanted to take a few minutes to just breathe and just remember those families that are going through tough times. Because as much as we want to solve the problem, sometimes we miss the actual people who are involved. My heart is really going out to some of my own friends who live in this community here. And as much as I wanted to, the one thing that hit me was, how many deaths will it take? Bob Dylan had written that song many years back. I always remember that song, and each time I sing that song, I just begin to cry, because why do you have this kind of, why do you hate us? If you don't like us, why do you hate us? That's what Daryl Davis told the Ku Klux Klan. Why do you hate us? Without knowing me, there are a lot of people in this world who are so ignorant, just caught up in this version of hatred. They have no idea where it's coming from, but they just hate people like you and me. I don't have words to say that. And all these people, my friends, are in colleges, professors, teachers, bosses, pastors, people in power. And these are the people who should be an example to the youngsters. And if you fail to be an example, how can others stand up? I read in Anaheim that one of the Chinese family, there are a lot of people in the community who are standing up for this teacher, because there are a lot of teenagers causing a trouble to that family. I live in a community that's predominantly Latino and Chinese and South Asian and Asian community here. It just breaks my heart to see that, there are 7.8 billion people on the planet. Why is this hate? Why are white people superior? In what way? What makes you feel like you are superior? We're all one, the same blood. We don't need too many deaths. I don't want to hear songs that are sung in the church and then they come out and start hating. I don't want children going to school and learning about geography and coming out and hating. I don't want to go to an office where my boss is nice to me and I come out and he's talking behind my back. And this has always been the problem. It's so much of issues, so much of, I would say, marginalization of our community. It just breaks my heart. And every time, I don't know how many sessions we need to have. We had one for Black Lives Matters. We just celebrated Transgender Day of Remembrance where 34 trans were murdered. And then a lot of them are people of color. And every day I walk out, I don't know what's going to happen. People don't like me because I look different. They just hate me because I look different. And they just hate us because we look different. And I have a lot of friends. I don't think it is a problem with the color. It's what inside of you is fundamentally wrong. You need to change it. And the only way we can do it is not build monuments for ourselves, but make sure that our younger generation, my daughter who's 21 years old, I want her to stand for anybody who is a human being. And as much as she's so much supportive to me and to everybody and whatever she has done, that is exactly what I want to leave this world with. And that is what breaks my heart. And I want to be an ally for the community here today. As a South Asian, I want to be a part. I want to hold your hand today. I'm here to hold your hand and say, you know what? If you want to move in the front, I'll hold your hand. I'll walk with you. And I'll stand with you. I don't know what else to do because I just want to be there. I want to be an ally. I want to be in places where you don't have a voice. And that's exactly what the I stands for in allies. Instigate tough conversations where we are not there. And that's what one of my black friends told me. Celia, if you want to be my savior, don't be my white savior. Don't be my savior at all, but be there for me when I am not there. And that's exactly what I want to do. And this is a great forum, but I want to be out there. I want to stand next to one of my friend who's standing in the post office, who's standing in Walmart, who's standing in a queue. I want to stand next to them because I don't want others to look at them with this hateful eyes. And I just wanted to learn too. That's the most important thing. The first thing is I need to learn more. I need to learn and understand, and that's why I'm here, because I want to listen. There are a lot of things I want to unlearn. There's so many things we learn. I want to listen first. I want to absorb that information, and then I want to stand there for you. So thank you so much, Chris, for inviting me. And I want all of us to remember that, we are there for you, and we will stand with you. We are holding your hand. We are your allies. We are your friends. We are your brothers. We are your sisters. We are your parents. So we are in this together. That's all I wanted to know. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Celia, for being here, and thank you for being there when we are not there and being that ally. I appreciate you very much. Nicole, Margie, and Celia, thank you again so much for coming on. I am going to ask you to leave the studio so we can get more people in. We have a lot of people in the queue. For those of you who are watching, please, there are some spots that have just now opened up. Feel free to hop on in. And I apologize, I keep looking down so I can text people back and forth. But thank you. This is a space to allow the Asian Pacific Islander community to come and grieve and talk and share their stories, share their emotions, to process what has happened in our community. And for those who are our allies who do not identify as Asian or Pacific Islander, feel free, come onto the stage and share your support and visibly show your support that you are here for the Asian community, because this is something that I've found in all of my discussions, that the Asian community does not feel like they have a voice. They do not feel like they are being heard. They do not feel like they have support. So feel free, come over and talk and share. I want to bring up Vun. Thank you again so much for coming and taking time. I will now pass it over to you.
Hi, Chris. Thank you so much for doing this, as you usually do when people need a space. And I woke up this morning, read that news, and it's so interesting to me that I read it and I was like, well, can we really say it was about race? And I caught myself like, this is a product of what I'm hearing and what I'm not hearing around us, right? How can I be right that it's about race when no one else is saying it? And then it brings me back to just, kind of like, how did we get here where I see this, where it's so obvious? And even me as an Asian woman question myself. And I look back at my whole life and think about all the unconscious biases towards me my whole life, all the microaggressions my whole life that led to this. And it is really wonderful to see all these allies here, because you're right, we don't really see it outside of this environment. And it makes me feel better. It makes me feel better in terms of, it was almost like relieving and healing in terms of where in my whole life, like I've always felt like if someone's going to stand up for me, it's going to be me, right? I am the one who sees something, says something. Someone says something to me, you're hearing something back from me. And I don't expect anyone around me to speak up for me. And that's sort of like, I feel like all the Asians in this room, I'm seeing you nod your head, because I never expected that. I never expected someone that didn't look like me to stand up for me. I never even expected someone who looked like me to stand up for me. And I just feel like it's nice to be in this environment where the allies are coming on, and we're really hearing from people who will, like Celia just said, will not just stand beside me, but stand in front of me. So I just want to share that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fun, for sharing your experience. I think a lot of us in the Asian Pacific Islander community can share. Yeah, we would share some of those experiences as well. Richard, thank you for joining. I want to acknowledge you, John, Sarah, and Joseph. Thank you all for waiting and being patient, trying to get in, as well as just waiting to speak as well. Richard, I'll pass it off to you to share whatever you would like to share.
Thanks, Chris. I appreciate the space and always appreciate all the work that you do here. Shall I see you leaning forward? Is my audio off? Can y'all hear me all right? We good?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. Awesome. Yeah, I honestly am so unsure of what it is that I even want to speak here, because I have spent the entire day sort of navigating lots of different spaces, right? And playing lots of roles. I've spent a lot of the day trying to think about what is it that I need, trying to think about what is it that others need, trying to grapple with the simultaneous privilege and oppression that I think so many folks that identify as Asian and Asian American sort of grapple with, right? That maybe come to mind just with the framing and the conversation that's gone on thus far around allyship is, I think two things. I think one, I am in a space where ally is not a word that I use very frequently anymore. I am in a space where I often try to push myself to think through or relative, just imagine or understand the fact that when we speak of allyship, it often seems very visible and it seems very reactionary, and it seems like there's these like one-off moments where it's like, like I need an ally, like right? And where I've sort of evolved in my thinking is this understanding that like allyship is not something that you can do. It is not a title that you can claim. Now we can act and move in the spirit of allyship. We can aspire to allyship on behalf of other communities, but that's not like a thing that like we can do ourselves, right? Like I used to be a teacher, I used to be a fifth grade teacher. And I remember when I was actually interviewing for another job in another school, on the job application, somebody wrote a question, tell a story of a student that you had a really profound impact on. And I didn't get the job because I didn't answer the question, because I disagreed fundamentally with the premise of the question. Like, how am I supposed to like claim that kind of gentle push for other folks that are also grappling with that language to think through, when we think about moving beyond allyship to being an accomplice or a co-conspirator, that takes work, right? That takes like a lot of work that doesn't get a lot of attention. It also takes a lot of listening and a lot of humility. Currently, I'm no longer a classroom teacher. I do DEI consulting for a lot of companies, and I do a lot of coaching for folks. And one of the big things that I keep trying to push, I guess this is my spiel really, one of the big things that I keep trying to push is that like not all of us are situated to do this work, like to do systemic change work. Like me as a DEI consultant for companies, like I am not the right person to be leading grassroots change, right? And that's like setting aside the entire conversation of the identities that I hold as a cisgender man from a very like affluent Asian American suburb, right? And so all that is to say that like a lot of folks and ERG leaders and DEI leaders have been reaching out to me being like, hey, Richard, what do we do? My answer is always like, follow the work of the folks that are literally doing the work, right? Like look for the grassroots organizations, look for the community-based organizations, look for the academics and the activists and the organizers, not the influencers and the entertainment celebrities, right? Those are the folks whose work like we really need to uplift and follow, because it's not my work, right? Like my work isn't that. Equity work is not the same as justice work. And so, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you again so much, Richard. There's a lot of work to be done. And I appreciate all of the work that you're doing. You have been going in overtime and overtime and overtime, helping and supporting the community. And all of your work. I want to acknowledge that and tell you that I appreciate everything that you do. So thank you so much. John, let's pass it over to you. Go ahead.
Hi, Chris. Thank you. I just
Oh, did we lose him? John, I think. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, looks like we lost John for a second. No, no problem. Sarah, I'll pass it over to you. Actually, hold on. Give me 1 second before I fully pass it over to you. For those of you, again, who are watching, I have put this StreamYard conversation into the comments. So if you want to come and share and process how you are feeling, if you want to share your thoughts, share your emotions, whatever your mindset is, if feel free, come in and join. There we have some spots that are available. I apologize that the studio was full earlier, so I thank you for your patience. Or if you just want to come and show support for the Asian Pacific Islander community, please join us and let us know that you stand with us. Sarah, I will pass it over to you. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everybody. I'm pretty acquainted with several of you, so thank you for taking your energy and putting it in here today. I know that most of you are being spokespeople for all Asians right now, and it's freaking exhausting, and I'm so sorry. I just wanted to quickly address, I think a lot of really important things have been said, so I just want to quickly address 3 responses I'm hearing from white folks in some of my circles. One is there is no prejudice against Asian folks. Look how much more money they make than I do. Okay, so because Oprah exists, there is still racism against Black folks. Because Jack Ma exists, there is still racism against Asian folks. Stop talking now. The second one is this doesn't affect me and it doesn't affect my kids. Yeah, it does. This is a global economy and it's a global society. Your kids probably have friends abroad that you don't even know about right now. So you need to think very clearly about educating yourself and your children. There are a million resources out there, and the best resource is not the single Asian person you know. Get out on the internet and figure it out for yourself. And then if you have a specific question, find someone who can answer it. Your single token Asian friend does not need to do the heavy lifting for you. So please do that. And my favorite, there's nothing I can do. That is always incorrect. There is always something you can do, even if it's just your presence. The people that are here today that aren't talking, I guarantee you your presence matters. There are Asian folks right now in physical danger. If you can't put your body in between them, at least stay aware and help them. Yell, scream, call somebody, do what you need to do. Emotional danger. Look at these Asian folks that are on this call. Do you think that they are all just happy to serve you in their massage parlors? Guess what? They're not. They're experiencing serious emotional damage here. So do what you need to do to support people on a community and a personal level. And finally, there's an intellectual danger here that I think is difficult to quantify, because the longer we allow this to keep happening, the more it becomes normalized. So I am asking my fellow white people out there to get aware. And even if it's one small thing, do the thing. Do it, because you can make a difference. And that's my little piece today.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you for advocating for us, for fighting for us and with us. And I appreciate you so much. We have some spots open. So if you are waiting or in the audience and you would like to join us, feel free and come up. Click on the links that I provided in the comments. We would love to have you and share your thoughts. Mei Lai, thank you for coming on. Maida, thank you. And looks like we have someone, BG, thank you again. Maida, you are up. So I would love to hear you share whatever you're feeling, whatever emotions or thoughts you have. Go ahead and please share with us.
Yeah, sure. I think I'm going to echo certain sentiments. I think for sure, definitely when the more news of like the AAPI hate that crimes that were happening, I was like numb to it. I was physically not in the US. I was in Singapore, and then I
like came back here a month ago, and I think hey Cheryl, and so it was really like numbing, and also the fact that it really had to come to us like seeing dead people to finally like pay attention. I think that's like the outreach that I'm feeling. And so a lot of like, yeah, I couldn't stay away from my social media like LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, because I don't know. I don't know. I tried to stay away, but I was like, I feel like I need to be there for my community, and to kind of move that to a different topic. Like, I'm not really a DEI leader. I do aspire to be one, and I felt like, oh, I can't really do anything or much of anything. But as Richa has mentioned, like, we're gonna offer a healing space later on today, and although I'm not a leader in any sense that I think that I am, I feel like it's time for anybody, no matter your capacity, no matter your expertise, like, you can step up. Like, everyone can do something to hold a space, to check in on your friend. Like, there are so many things that you can do. If you're like, oh, I don't know what to do, there you go. There a couple of things that you can do. So definitely very scatterbrained right now, but I think that's all I can like offer for right now. So thanks for holding the space.
Maida, I just want to say thank you for being here. You are a leader for being here.
Thanks.
And it's so nice to have someone from the same heritage on this StreamYard platform with me. I feel like I was homesick, and then I saw your face, and then it just felt good. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Maida, thank you again so much for coming and sharing. And yes, I was just about to say the exact same thing. Cheryl beat me to it. You are a leader. You are creating space. You are allowing others to come and share and heal. And that's what a lot of the Asian Pacific Islander community needs right now. And again, we need our allies to show up as well, and that's part of why we are here. So if you have anything else, yeah, it looks like you unmuted, so I want to give you back that space.
Yeah, I do remember one thing. I do feel a little bit of hope, because I was like reading a lot about how our narratives are silenced and how we're not really being heard. But just seeing like this space that you're creating today honestly gave me a lot of hope to be like, I mean, at first I was like, I don't want to hear no white tears or all of that, but it was really helpful, to be honest, to be like, yeah, that was actually helpful. I changed my mind on that, and to hear what how folks are thinking of us in their hearts and holding us, and kind of just honoring us in the space right now. But again, like, juxtapose that with the whole, again, we have to see the brutalization of people for that to happen. I think, again, just lots of processing that I gotta think about. But anyway, that's all I got.
Yeah. Well, Maida, thank you again. And yes, this platform I wanted to create to again allow those in our community to come together, heal, and process, but also to show and visibly show something that will live on in permanence, right? That we do have allies, we do have support, we do have people behind us who are willing to speak up for us, who are willing to do the work, because that is so important. It is so difficult for us in any community, however you identify, to stand there alone and not have anyone around you. So thank you, for those who have been on the stage and come and talked. Thank you so much. Brianna, Dr. Latanya, sorry. Thank you for showing up as well, for coming. I know I'm starting to get tongue-tied, been doing this for a little over an hour, but I am here. Again, if you are still watching on LinkedIn, YouTube, or Facebook, if you want to join us, the link to join us is in the comments. Feel free and come over. We would love to have you, and for you to share whatever you would like to say. Maylai, good to see your beautiful face. How is Hawaii? How are you feeling? Feel free to share whatever you would like to share. Oh, you are muted, Maylai.
You gotta unmute me.
There you go.
You had to unmute me. It wasn't me, I swear. Thanks for having this forum and this space to have a chat and this dialogue. I think it's super important. How I'm feeling, this is pretty enraging, right? All this, it's sucks. This shouldn't be happening, but it is. So I feel a lot of frustration, anger, and grief, right? Like, innocent people, just all these innocent people, it just keeps coming up. News article after news article. I feel motivated. I want to help in any way I can. And, with like at work, we have our chief diversity officer is our CEO. And I am vocal, and I email him, and we've got some ERG groups, forming. So vocal there and trying to, I'm working with them to figure out some, solutions and, what's our stance, within our organization, what we tolerate, what we don't, how we can help the community. I'm just a little frustrated, to be really honest, and seeing this time, day after day, it sucks. And, I want to be able to bring people together. I think for any type of, how do I say, for this to be successful, we need solidarity. We need to come together. We can't do it alone. It's not going to work, right? Just looking at demographics in the US, I Googled it last Friday. I was having a happy hour and I was like, what's our numbers look like? And, it's not that, I think Asian Americans, it was around 4%, right? And then, I just started to see, the Latinos and the Black community, and I was like, oh my gosh, like we are really outnumbered. I got a little depleted at drinking my beer, and I was like, I don't know how we're gonna do this. You just feel it, right? So I feel very motivated, and I'm happy that there's dialogue, and it's very unfortunate to keep seeing this. So I think that's it in short. Just trying to make our differences through conversation on a person with personal relationships and through the workplace. I think it's important to try to influence others to understand that it's not it's for our society as a whole, like it's right or wrong, it's not, and I think to influence, we'll need to have to educate these people of why it's important. Because I had a conversation at work, and it was like 5 people, and I swear it just, I mentioned it, but it just didn't seem like they gave sorry for my language, but they didn't seem to care, right? Whatever reason it was. So to educate, influence, and hopefully with that type of information, people will become more empathetic and understand a little more rather than just looking away,
Yeah, absolutely. As you're saying that, you're actually in the same room right now with Dr. LaTanya Davis, who actually talked about the need to LaTanya, maybe I'll just pass it over to you, because you're going to be much more eloquent, because you actually just talked to our group last week about this, about the need for us to dismantle white supremacy and where to start, and that any act or anything against one group is an attack on others, and so we do need to come together on that. So, Dr. Davis, please share.
It's just Tanya.
LaTanya, yeah. Well, I want to acknowledge your status, because I know that you worked hard for it, so I don't want to disrespect that. That's why.
I appreciate it. It's so interesting, because I was just sitting here. So many things like you can say to be said, and I always feel like racism at the end of the day is a heart issue, and it is about relationship. I mean, 1000%. Really stepping out of your comfort zone, getting to know people, understanding who people are. And it's just so, I don't even want to use the word unfortunate. It is infuriating that it continues to happen to so many different groups of people and ethnic groups. And you talked about like the numbers. I'm a numbers person too. I was thinking about the numbers of our country. Where do we see people of color? Where do we see Black people? Where do we see Asian Americans? And not just Asian Americans, but the ethnicities that are broken down within Asian American communities. Where do we see those? And I always wonder, like, what does it take? I literally just sent a message today to a CEO and I said, you know, what is it going to take for people to understand the message that we cannot treat people differently because they are different than us? We cannot do these things continuously. And the only thing that I keep coming to mind that I talk to my own son about is, in order for any kind of change to occur, we have to be willing to think on a different level and view from a different perspective. There are people who are sitting on the sidelines. They know that these things are not right, and they don't speak. They don't say anything for whatever reason, maybe fear, what have you. But at the end of the day, our voices do matter. And it's unfortunate we have to sit and we have to have a death or multiple deaths for people to realize that there's a problem, that something is happening, and that, oh, what do we do about it now? Well, at the end of the day, I do think that all communities of color have to come together, and those who are true allies and co-conspirators must come together to make sure that we understand, like, what is the next step? What can we do? And a part of it is like being in positions of influence and power, where you can make those decisions and choices, whether you're heads of corporations, whether you're head of a university or a school. The people who can make some of those major changes are in those positions. And the question is, where's your mindset? Do you understand what you can do in your position to be able to help do more? There is the intellectual conversation about racism, and then there's the everyday conversation, where I go out somewhere, someone sees me, they don't call me Dr. Davis. They see me as a Black female, or may see Cheryl as an Asian and have their assumptions or their stereotypes about, who we are. And at the end of the day, you don't know who we are. We have to make more of an effort to get to know one another. That's what breaks down the stereotypes, breaks down the nonsense, the assumptions that go on. And it's going to really hopefully be able to kind of stop. I think that my message to those who continue to believe that it's okay to use microaggressions, to have racist attitudes, to have the wrong mindset, you have to change. This country is changing. This is not the same country it was when it was first created. And so at the end of the day, we have people here that are valuable. We have humans that are valuable, and we must be able to recognize that. Just as context, I happen to live in Houston, Texas. So George Floyd attended my high school, Jack Yates Senior High School. And so we're very, very serious about the work that we're trying to do to make sure that no one really feels that way. But I think that I'm hoping that people see this video, they see what everyone is saying, and they think about it. Like, what am I doing? How can I change my mind? How can I change my actions? What can I do? What's one thing I can actually do to start making a difference today, and then tomorrow, and the next day, and the next day? And for those who know people, who are holding these sorts of views, you need to hold them accountable. Cannot sit back and allow your family or your friend or your colleague say and do certain things that you know are not appropriate. I don't want to take up the space, but I wanted to say those things because I think it's important for people to recognize and understand that I really, really want to have a world where my young son, who's 11, does not have to experience what we're going through right now. And I don't want to have this conversation 20 years from now saying, hey, we had this conversation and now we're still back here again. We have got to change as a nation. So systemically, it has to change. Individually, it has to change, and structurally, it has to change.
100%. I don't want to be a downer in this. When we look at the progress we've made over the last, almost 60 years now since the Civil Rights Act, we've made some progress, but not, I think, culturally, from a societal view, we have not made as much as we should have. And so that's the cynic in me, that's the pessimist in me, that's saying, I don't know how it's going to be in the next decade, 2 decades, but I'm with you. We have to make a change. We have to be more active. We have to get uncomfortable. We have to stand up for what is right. We have to eradicate white supremacy and racism in our society. It cannot stand any longer. And the only way that we can do that is if all of us stand together in solidarity and support it and stamp it out. It has no place in this world.
And let me add on to that too. Do it afraid. Do it afraid. I have had many people come to me and say, "Hey, Tanya, I feel X, Y, and Z," and they're afraid. Do it afraid. Because if you do it afraid, as our ancestors did, then you can make change. But it takes it takes 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 to keep doing it. So do it afraid. I do it every day.
Yeah. And it's okay. It's okay to be afraid. It's going to be uncomfortable.
Yep.
Ricklin, thank you so much for joining us. Latanya, thank you again so much for coming on and joining. We have space right now, so if you want to stay on, the studio is not full, so feel free to stay on as long as you would like. Brianna, thank you so much for coming and joining. Good to see you, my friend. I haven't seen you in a few weeks, as always.
Thank you for the invitation, Chris, and thank you so much for creating this space. Today has been heavy for a lot of people, and as a member of the HR community, especially, the tragedy that happened. Not only was it a tragedy, but it happened in the workplace. I mean, this is workplace violence, and in addition to a hate crime, it's tragic and it's terrible, and it's just a reminder for those of us who are in HR, those of us who are making the transition to become people first leaders, which I know is a huge passion of Chris, is that the HR function and those of us in the HR profession have a huge responsibility to make sure that we are humanizing the employee experience, and this is part of it. It's showing up and acknowledging, really this sick behavior that we have been seeing as of late in the world and in the communities around us, and it's just heart-wrenching. And I heard Tanya mention to do the work, even if do it afraid. The other thing I would add is do it even though it's exhausting. I heard someone say today, this is exhausting. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of having to explain, educate, etc. And the question that I asked of her, I said, do you think that Martin Luther King Jr. ever felt exhausted? Probably every day till the day that he died. And I said, I think the fact that this work is exhausting, really tells a story of how important the work is. If it weren't exhausting, then what are we even doing? Right. So you're gonna feel exhausted, you're gonna feel tired, you're gonna feel afraid. There's all kinds of different emotions that come along with it, but the work matters and is very, very, very necessary. So I am here really to show solidarity for the Asian American Pacific Islander community, and as a Black woman, who's dealt with my own experiences, my own lived experiences with hate and mistreatment on all kinds of levels. You hear people say, I wouldn't wish that on my own, worst enemy. So I almost feel like watching this unfold is, having someone else experience something that I would never want someone else to have to experience. And so I'm just here to support and, want you to know, everyone who's here on the broadcast, anyone who's watching or listening in, that I'm here and praying for those that are impacted directly, those who've been impacted indirectly. And to your point, Chris, we have to come together and stamp it out together.
Thank you so much, Ricklin. And by the way, I this is a bit of a tangent, but I want to say it's wonderful to see you face to face, to put a face to face to the name. Yep.
We've been in a lot of the clubhouse rooms together and on LinkedIn. So very nice. You're right.
Yes. And thank you again so much for your support and for all of the work that you do.
Thank you.
We have so much work to do. It is exhausting, but to me, that tells me that it's worth it. That tells me that we're working for something good together. So
yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Brianna, hello. want
Hi.
to acknowledge you. I think this is going to be our, this thought, us. Oh, looks like we got Laura as well. So we will bring Laura up as well. But Brianna, go ahead and share whatever you would like to say. Thank you for
Yeah,
joining.
yeah, of course. Thank you for having me here. I echo a lot of Rickland's sentiments. Honestly, I, really wanted to come to show my support and stand in solidarity with you, Chris, as my colleague, as my day one, as we like to say, started on the same day with our firm. And, the other thing that I think is super important that I think, Rickland, you mentioned also is, or maybe it was Tanya, the empathy piece, because as I'm reading the story, I was like, this to me sounds like what just happened in El Paso when Mexicans were targeted.
Yeah.
And this to me sounds like what happened, at the church where they targeted Black Americans. I mean, I'm like, it's the same story. And so as I was reading, I was like, I empathize with the feeling of you're scared to go outside because somebody is, you can't even go to the spa or the nail salon or Walmart or, wherever it is, church, and so that to me has just been weighing very heavy since I read the story last night, and it's just been a tough day, but I'm happy to be here with you all, and thank you for letting me share.
Thank you again for showing up, for being a support, being an ally, being an advocate for us. And for me personally, being my day one buddy as well at work. I appreciate it very much. Laura, I see you are with us. Not quite 100% without the video. That's okay. If you have anything that you would like to add or share or say, feel free to go ahead and share. Cheryl, you've been with us for quite some time. Any words to add or any reflections that you've heard from this conversation?
Yeah, I'm so grateful to have people who are supportive, who are willing to step outside of their lived experience and to feel this with us. I think that it's been a wave of hatred, but there's also been waves of compassion. And I'm a little teary saying that. I've seen so much compassion from so many people. So thank you so much for being here. This violence is not by accident. There is cultural consent for the scapegoating. And I hope that people at home will challenge these sentiments because it's been a whole year. So that's me, over and out.
Thank you, Cheryl. Yeah, we've had. I'm gonna have to go back through and see how many individuals we've had on. And I feel bad because there's a lot more who actually couldn't even get on because the studio was full. But yeah, for those of you who are still watching, thank you for sticking around. Thank you for being there and here with us as we have this conversation. Laura, thank you. It's good to see you again. Feel free to share whatever is on your mind, whatever you would like to just talk about.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. It's good to see you again. And Cheryl, my 5-year-old is with me. And I honestly am angry. And I'm sad. And I'm tired. And I wanted to come today because I wanted people to see that we're not all this stoic group of people who can just take it. And I don't think our tears are being shown in a way that needs to be shown. And that's why I wanted to come in, even though my heart is pounding. And I've been avoiding the media, and I've been avoiding, and people are calling me, and my clients are calling me. I'm scared. And people aren't seeing this because it takes so much for us to show this. I don't want to speak what's on my mind. I don't care about the intelligent reasons, the inclusion and equity and diversity reasons for why this is happening. I want to say that this is called Stop API Hate, but it's not API hate. White supremacy is about hatred itself. This young white man who there's like empathy for this guy, which I don't understand. And at the same time, I do understand because he is hateful. He is filled with hate. And instead of dealing with that, he projected it onto these poor Asian elders and killed them because he had a sex addiction. And that is the crux from a mental health perspective, from a societal health perspective, that white supremacy is about their own freaking hatred of themselves, and they keep projecting it onto us as people of color, as queer folks, as trans folks, and I'm tired of it. We need to heal. They need to heal.
Laura, I want to thank you for being raw and showing yourself and being vulnerable. Thank you for sharing that and showing yourself. This is another reason why I wanted to have this conversation. I wanted, if anything, I wanted to show the world or whoever watches this that the Asian Pacific Islander community is not one that rolls over. We are not that model minority myth. We are not what society has labeled us as. And it is far past due for us to raise our voices up, to show that we have strength, we have power, we do have emotion, we do have sadness, and we cannot take this anymore. We are far past that. Far, far, far past that. And your words are so powerful, and your emotion is so moving. I want to again, I want to thank you for that, because it is. I'm seeing comments too. You know, people are resonating with how you are feeling, and we need to acknowledge that. And again, this is not all of it. We all have so much more emotion that we have that we are afraid to show, or that we may not be willing. So to those who do identify as Asian Pacific Islander, it is okay. This is your chance. Use this. This is my encouragement to you. Please, if you are watching this or listening to this, be real and go out and talk, and whatever you need to do to process it. We need to get behind this. And then for those of you who are, again, are watching or listening, who are our allies and our supports and our advocates, if you haven't already yet, please reach out to your friends and family who are Asian, who are Pacific, who do identify as Pacific Islander. They are hurting so much right now, and then do something about it. We need our society to change. There are so many groups that are in pain, have gone through pain, who have gone through trauma, and right now the Asian community is hurting something fierce. And so, Laura, thank you again. I don't know if you have anything you would like to add or say, but I want to provide that space for you.
I just want to encourage folks to let yourself feel it. Our minds aren't what change things. Our hearts and what we feel is what drives us and what changes things. That is why, we're taught from the day we get into the American education system to think, not to feel, to be rational, to be logical, because they know the power of our emotions. It makes us want to change. So if you're angry, be angry. If you need to cry, cry. Do whatever you need to do. Don't let it fester. that stomachache you're feeling, that headache you're feeling, the double downing on your work productivity that you're doing, the thinking, that's not going to be me. Those are all unskillful coping mechanisms designed and then used and exploited against us.
Lola, thank you so much for being our emotional leader. I'm going to echo everything that you said. And I also want to say that a lot of us are experiencing secondary trauma, and we don't have to directly experience a trauma to feel symptoms. If you're feeling hypervigilant, if you're having recurring thoughts that are disturbing, if you're depressed, you're anxious, all of these things are normal responses to a bizarre, terrible, horrific year. It's been a nightmare of a year. And so white supremacy severs mind from body. But I'm inviting you to resist that tide. I will not be badgered into assimilation and to sever my mind from my body anymore. My emotions are here. My mind is sharp. My body is here, and I'm not taking it anymore. So Lola, I just want to echo everything you said, and I want to thank you for being an emotional leader right now for us.
Yes, I echo that, Cheryl. Thank you again for acknowledging that, and Lola, yes, thank you again for leading us in this moment. Tania, I want to recognize you. Thank you for joining. Jess, it looks like you're joining as well. For those of you who are still watching, still with us, I can still see there are some who are still with us. If you would like to join the conversation, all of the link to come into the studio is in the comments. Feel free. This is just a flowing space, so feel free, come go as you please. If you are a part of the Asian community, we would love to hear how you're feeling and use this space. This space was created so you can process, so you can share. And for those who are our allies and advocates, this is a space for you to come and show your solidarity and your support for the community. So again, thank you so much. And Tania, I'd like to pass it off to you.
I didn't plan to come on video. I just saw the notification come up and I looked at it on the phone. When I first learned about it, the words that seems to be repetitive in this whole year is what the hell is going on in America right now? You look at the screen and all of a sudden you just see images and picture and you're working, because I've been working from home, and you could be in a meeting, especially when the Capitol happened. And I don't think, and I told this to a friend the last couple of weeks, is like, I've been getting just depressed just by, like, I live by myself, so I've been alone. I don't have family here, and I have a lot of Asian friends. I work with them. And just the saying, I mean, I immediately went into tears just for, like, I haven't cried so much. And just listening to Laura, I couldn't even hold back, like, the emotion, for me, the imagery, and even trying to understand how can there be wicked people to enter into somebody's workspace, people that are just trying to make a living. They did nothing to them. Why are there such hateful people in the world? It's like it seems like people have no value for human life. It's like the humane part of us is leaving us. I know COVID, people keep saying like, oh, COVID did this. And I keep telling people, this hatred always existed. We're just home now because we don't have nothing better to do and we're paying attention. Okay. This have to stop. okay? We all bleed red, okay? We all bleed red. I can't even imagine or come close that somebody's mother, father, brother, grandmother, children, grandpa died for no damn reason, okay? No reason, just because somebody hated them. For what? For existing? Come on, people. Enough is enough. I just Googled today trying to figure out. I literally, I was curious. I wanted to find out what population of whites there were in the 300 million population in the US. I realized the population of whites is almost like 200 million something of us. And they overpowering us in every way. What are we doing? You know? I mean, I can imagine. Okay, yes, I can. I know what it is to look a certain way and to be targeted because you look a certain way, and you can't hide behind that. An Asian can't hide behind being an Asian or a Caribbean Pacific Islander like a Black person can hide being Black, okay? You're easily targeted because of what you look like. And you know what angers me about this most all? This started with flipping Trump, putting the microscope when this whole COVID started with this Asia, China, China, China. Did the same thing. Remember when Arab Americans that didn't have nothing to do with what was going on, how they were being violated and attacked just for who they were. They weren't even part of that. People need to educate themselves, okay? Just because one group of people does something bad doesn't mean the entire group of people generalize them and everyone pays for what one group of people does, okay? So this is no different. So now, okay, we've left the abusing of Arabs. Now we're abusing Asian too. I mean, really, when is going to stop? Who else is going to be the next group of people they attack? Who else? Who else? I'm just sick and tired of crying, okay? I'm getting depressed watching humankind turn into freaking savages. I don't even know. I'm here trying to figure out what part of the world can I go where I can be safe. I have a Serbian friend, and she said, and I'm thinking Serbia. That's just to lighten the mode of things because we're trying to strategize where to go. Where can we go live? Where we can be safe. She's like, girl, you like it in Serbia. I said, girl, I'm loving Serbia even more because I remember my parents did a whole lot to come to America, but what the hell they did to come to America, I just want to escape it now because this place is hell. I'm okay. I'm done. Yeah.
Tania, thank you again so much for also being vulnerable and showing that. And thank you for sharing. It is something that we, you know what? I'm gonna let it sit for a second because I don't know. I just don't know what to say at this point. So I'll let it sit.
Thank you for reminding us of our humanity. Thank you so much.
I am so sorry. Okay, I'm so sorry for what's happening. I'm sorry.
You're muted, Chris.
Sorry. Tania, thank you for showing your support. Thank you for showing solidarity with the Asian community. Thank you for showing your emotion and again, and being vulnerable. To me, it shows me, right, the level of compassion that you have for us in the Asian community. to me, it shows me that, and I hope it shows others, that we can have emotion for other groups. We can stand in solidarity and support one another. We can get angry and sad and furious and all other sorts of emotions for our fellow human brothers and sisters. Human brothers and sisters, right? So I want to thank you again for that. Rena, I want to recognize you. Thank you for coming and showing up. Yeah, the floor is yours, whatever you would like to say. You are muted, Rena.
Okay.
Oh, there you go.
I just wanted to say, Tania, I really resonated with everything that you just said. Wow. I wish that I could articulate it like that. And I showed up because, you know, I want to know, how can we make a change? How can we support you? How can we join you? How can we be more human with each other? You know, we are all stuck at home and we are all going through this the same. I can relate to that too. I mean, I'm a mom of 4. You know, I want to be a good example for my kids. I want to teach them to be loving. We need to just spread more love instead of hate. I think that's the bottom line. I really think that's the only way to combat what's going on in the world today. My children, I guess, help me see that there is still love and there is still innocence and there is still good. I'm so sorry for what you're feeling and what you're going through, and I'm here to support you. I don't know what to say.
It's okay. You know, we don't always have to have words for everything. It's okay to just let it sit and be. And from there, we just learn. We just learn to move through the uncomfortability. We learn to move through that awkwardness and that difficult emotion that we're feeling. And then we work to be better. Right? So, for those of you who have stuck around with us this entire 2-hour session, thank you so much. If you are watching this afterwards, after this has gone live, please reach out to those around you. And as you may have heard throughout this discussion, we have a lot of work to do around dismantling white supremacy. For those who want to do more to support those in the Atlanta area, this banner down below, advancingjustice-atlanta.org, is a resource for you to support the Asian Pacific Islander community in Atlanta due to this, which has sparked this conversation today. If you want to learn more about the hate crimes and violence against Asian Americans, you can go to stopaapihate.org. And I guess I'll leave it up to those who are still here if you have any final words before we sign off for the night.
Well, Chris, I don't think we thank our leaders enough. So I want to thank you for doing this. You've been a real trooper with me. So thank you so much for being you.
Thank you for that, Cheryl. Again, it's for me, it's not about myself. It's about shining that spotlight on the community and those around us, our allies and our advocates as well. So thank you all again. Tania, as always, it's always a pleasure to get a chance to talk to you. Rena, thank you for showing up, showing your support. Lola, thank you. I'm not sure if you're still there, but thank you for being that emotional leader, as Cheryl said. And Cheryl, thank you for, as always, being there, being here with me as we navigate this and bring awareness and education and have these difficult discussions. For everyone who has come up in the last 2 hours, if you're come back and revisit this and you're here at the end, thank you again for everything that you've done, everything you've shared. And have a good night, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Bye.
Bye.